Okay, so continue. Which sutra do we remember that we've covered over the last couple of days? Which ones?
The clothes. We take off our clothes.
Very good.
Acquire new clothes like a body.
So very good. That which is embodied, right?
So we're not reciting the prayer anymore?
We are.
Okay.
Thank you. We actually put them out in the new book last night. So
that's the...
Thank you, Hari. That was very good. Okay, Geeta Dhyanam. And again, as we're still getting started, I'll post this again on the dialogue today, just in case we don't have. O Bhagavad Gita, by which Arjuna was illumined by Lord Krishna himself, and which was composed of 18 chapters within the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. O Divine Mother, destroyer of rebirth, who showers the nectar of oneness on us. O Bhagavad Gita, my affectionate mother, on thee I meditate. All the Upanishads are the cows, the milker is the cowherd boy, Krishna. Arjuna is the calf. People of purified intellect are the drinkers. And the milk is the supreme nectar of the Gita. My salutations to the Lord, who is the source of supreme bliss, whose grace makes the mute eloquent and the crippled cross mountains. Hari Om Tat Sat. Okay, so that was the last sloka that we covered yesterday. Just like casting off worn out clothing and putting on new ones, that which is embodied casts off worn out bodies and enters others that are new. And we read this, so Swami Chinmayananda has a very amazing philosophical approach to the Gita, a way to relate to in a lot of detail. And we had read his commentary yesterday about. So if that sticks with anyone, why would this body be cast off? Anyone want to speak to that? Why would this body be cast off?
When it's no longer needed.
When it's no longer needed. In the same way that you cast off your favorite coat that you've worn for 50 years, but now it's not serving any longer. You've moved to a warm climate, or it has worn out. So in the same way, this is the concept that's being shared. Okay. So we'll continue on the discussion of self. 23. Weapons do not affect the self. Fire does not burn it. Water does not wet it. And wind does not dry it. So, when I was walking in pilgrimage, sometimes in very stormy weather, people would say, "Are you going out without an umbrella? You might get wet." And I realized something by that point, to the point of what's being discussed here. And I would say, how could I get wet? And it's a very interesting realization when you get it. The body could get wet. How does that affect me? And yes, it's true, the body could get some cold, something like that. Generally speaking, I learned very early on that doesn't automatically happen, I used to be able to be just fine playing around in the puddles during a rainstorm. So does that resonate in some way, that it might rain and you could be out in the rain, but that you wouldn't get wet? The water doesn't come inside. Did we catch it? Oh. So it doesn't get to the I. So he continues, he says, the self cannot be pierced or cut. It cannot be burned, moistened, or dried. It is endless, all-pervading, stable and immovable, and everlasting. So every one of these words has meaning. And they all will help us. Each of them will help us in terms of getting it and coming to an understanding here. The self cannot be pierced or cut. Does that make sense? Well, the body can, but will it touch me? And you could check in on this, by the way. You could remember a circumstance where there was a cut and blood everywhere, but did it touch you? Did it affect the I? Did it affect the experiencer in any way? The experiencer had a new experience. Right? But the experiencer was still the same. Yes?
Yeah.
Unaffected. Completely unaffected. I'm still here. Even if this hand gets cut off, I'm still here. I'm still experiencing. Okay, fine. I'm experiencing blood, pain, all these things, but still, I'm actually unaffected by it. Does that resonate? Please.
This is exactly what happened to me when I had cancer. It was like I was the calmest person in the room. It was almost like it was not, I was still calm. It was the calmest time I ever was in my life. It was like I was watching this play. It was happening to this shell, but yet I felt the peace, like they talk about the peace that passes understanding.
Yes.
That is exactly how I felt. It was to me, it was a miraculous experience. And one of the most, actually, it's so ironic, one of the most positive experiences of my life.
Well, and it's a great teacher now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that comes with acceptance of the experience. Then calm, of course, is there. Peace is here. Sama. When I accept that I'm here and I can't be somewhere else, then sama comes. Peace of mind comes. Because I'm not fighting it. I'm not all caught up in what else to do, where else to be. But it also became clear to you that I was fine through all of it. So unaffected by what's happening to the body. And this is exactly what Lord Krishna is sharing here. And it does require us to get it. It's going to require us to unbundle the experience and the experiencer. They're clearly not the same. Right? Even when we look at the quote-unquote normal activities of life, you see that I am experiencing something, right? So I'm enjoying this meal, or I'm not enjoying this meal. So I'm experiencing eating, is it correct? It's just that we've irrigated this body with this I. But then if you step back one more level, you see, but I'm also experiencing all the things of the body. Right? I'm experiencing hunger. I'm experiencing the taste of the food, which is actually not in the food. Right? The taste of the food is an experience of the person. It's an inner, not inner all the way inner, but it's in the mind, yes. But you can also say it's in the way that the food is being digested, but it's in the way that the taste buds are experiencing it, and the mind is interpreting it. Is that correct? That's where the taste is. So we're accustomed to saying, I, like this, am experiencing, but here it's taking us a level deeper to see, actually, no, but I am experiencing. But I'm experiencing these processes as well as the stuff that's outside, both.
Swamiji, I have a question. The way I thought of it, and I don't know if this is a way to think about this relationship between I and experience, was like, if I was hungry, wouldn't I always be hungry? if wouldn't whatever I is have to be stable? Is that kind of what he was saying when he said immovable?
I don't know that that's a way to relate to this. I understand what you're asking. So, and it's clear that if you say I am hungry, you're just talking about a mental state. You're not talking about I. That's fair. So if we say we're needing to unbundle the I, the experiencer from the experience, then we could use that example to see. Yeah. Okay. So just see if we can, one more time with this sutra, with this background, the self, the I. And I is a good way to relate to this word capital S self. And then recognize that he's actually speaking of the I, the experiencer, that which is experiencing, that which is in the body, that which is embodied. We could say astral, but really he's pointing to something deeper than that. Okay, so the self cannot be pierced or cut. It cannot be burned. So you circulated that photograph, which really made an impression on you, of the monk, Vietnamese,
Yeah.
who had self-immolated as a protest. And so it's just an example of that, right? But there can be something burned, but the self itself is not burned. The fire doesn't touch it.
Yeah, the video's amazing. He doesn't even move or make a sound.
It just indicates firm intellect. Firm intellect. It doesn't necessarily indicate self-realization, but it does indicate firm intellect. Firm resolve. And it indicates sama, steadiness of mind.
So he wasn't necessarily...
No, I'm saying it doesn't necessarily indicate what you automatically go to.
Oh,
But it does indicate clearness of purpose, right? It does indicate an understanding of Dharma, understanding of my role. You'll see the same with warriors in battle, right? And a firmness of intellect, understanding my duty, my role, and what I am to do, and a commitment to an unflinching. And it does indicate the ability to control the mind. So this much absolutely is there. It's absolutely there. And here, so it cannot be burned, it cannot be moistened, it cannot be dried. It is endless. There is no end to this I. There is no beginning and no end. This experiencer.
But actually the astral body cannot be burned or any of those things either. So
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah. It is endless, all-pervading, stable, immovable, and everlasting. It is said to be unmanifested, so it's not made. It's not created. It's inconceivable and immutable. It can't actually be conceived of in the mind. The mind can't conceive infinite. It can just relate to it in some way with the mental construct. So the mental constructs are helpful. So if you relate to infinite, something that's infinite galaxy, for example, to relate to it, the mind will just imagine something very big and then bigger than that.
yeah.
So it can't get there, but it can imagine in some way what infinite might be. This relationship with the Absolute is the same way. The mind comes from it. So, and that from which it comes, its own source, it cannot conceive, but it can imagine qualities of it and like this. So this is part of what we do in Vedanta and study, is we'll imagine something bigger. And then if we can imagine all of the perceived limits, we can imagine something that is without limits, so greater than the limits. But still it's being shared as inconceivable. It's not possible to completely conceive it for the mind.
There's a beautiful lecture by Swami called Defining God.
Mm.
It kind of goes through all this. It's really
Wonderful.
wonderful.
Very good, Gopal. And immutable. Knowing all this, there is no cause to grieve. So again, he's relating it back to the I, back to you, back to me. Huh? He's referring to the I. Which is actually the one thing that you take to be real, interestingly enough, because you never negate the I. I'm dying. I'm breathing. It's the one thing that you never actually negate. If you just look at our normal conversation, you can catch something there. Right? As far as each of us, the I always exists.
That seems parallel to nonviolent communication, because you're like, when you're pointing to a person, you're like, you are this, you are that, but it's really like.
But even there, that you is only related to I.
Yeah.
I only care about you because of I. So it's the one beingness, the one quality, we could say like this, that we could never negate. And that's what Krishna is saying. It's the only thing that cannot be negated. The idea of I will be negated. The idea of I, the stories about I will be negated. All the things that are happening in this birth right now, they will all be negated tomorrow. Right? Everything will be negated. Everything will be done. Or to be. But the I can't be. And that's what he's sharing. The I is eternal. Unmanifested, inconceivable, immutable. Knowing all this, there is no cause to grieve. So what's this death then? How does that apply here? Swamiji adds some commentary. Why? Because the self is not of nature's elements. All the elements are products of that same essence, thus they can't affect it. So the elements, the five elements, everything here is constructed of the five elements. But just like this body, anything else here is of that essence, so it can't affect that essence. They are the gross expressions of it. After saying something about the immortal principle of Atman, Sri Krishna takes a different tack. Now, I've told you about your immortality, but you still may not want to believe this because it seems like mere theory. You may still have some doubts and insist it is born and it will die, all right. But even if that were so, why worry about it? So in the second chapter, Lord Krishna gives Arjuna 3 reasons why he needs to do his duty. This is the second. The first one is that you must do your duty, and that your ideas about who you are and who's here and all of this are completely wrong, and nothing's killed. So he starts there. And then he says, and I understand that you may not grasp that. You may not get that. You may not believe that. It might not be in your experience. So I'll give you another reason. Even if you imagined Atman, the self, continuously taking birth and dying, even then, mighty Arjuna, there is no reason to grieve. And he continues on that line. Whatever is born will undoubtedly die. Whatever is dead certainly will be born. You should not mourn what is inevitable. Arjuna, beings originally are unmanifested. At mid-state they're manifested and unmanifested again at the end. What is the point of lamenting? One may perceive the self as full of wonders. One may perceive the self as full of wonders. Another speaks of it as marvelous. Another hears it as wonderful. Yet none completely understand it. This self, which exists in everyone, the indweller, is invulnerable, Arjuna. Therefore, you do not have to grieve for anyone. So what does invulnerable mean? Who wants to take a shot?
Adamantine, always there.
Okay. Invulnerable. You break it down. Vulnerable means what?
It can be broken.
Exposed.
Exposed. Okay. Yeah, very good. So it can be hurt. It can be damaged, right? Invulnerable meaning
Not exposed.
can't be hurt, can't be damaged, not vulnerable. Oh, very good. So, so he's given a second reason. It's a lower philosophy, but also a viable reason. So, and he's saying, okay, fine. So you're still caught up in the notion that you can die. Fine. Then even if you look at it that way, then you'll see that life and death are a circle. It's an interesting notion. In the West in particular, we're very jaded and will often tend not to subscribe to this, even though the proof is all around us. Whatever dies is reborn. These trees here, these plants, they all came from something that died. Their predecessors died, if you want to look at it that way. There's another way to see it, which is life alone exists, and life just continues as a continuity. And we could see it that way, but if you choose to see it as their predecessors, their parents died, then who are these? Then their predecessors were reborn as these. You don't see with the physical eyes, you don't see life after death. Right? With the physical eyes, someone's in front of you and you say they die, and to the physical eyes and to the touch and to the smell and all that, they're gone. To the gross senses. But we understand they're not really gone. So that's the first point that Krishna is making. Not really gone. All the evidence supports that. But still, to the senses, it seems yes. So we might believe, okay, they're gone. But in their place comes another. It appears this way. So they're manifest, then they appear to be unmanifest, and they're unmanifest. But then where did anyone come from? The unmanifest, is it so? So the cycle continues. This is the second line that Lord Krishna has provided. Okay, I think we'll stop there. He has one more to go. One more line of reasoning. He's very focused on getting Arjuna to do his duty, but really the primary goal is for Arjuna to know who he is, for us to know who we are. So, okay, questions, comments, anything on today's, what we've covered? Swamiji adds a little commentary, a couple of lines which are great watchwords for us, great wisdom. He says, it's always changing. Just watch the changes and enjoy them. Sri Krishna takes still another viewpoint, a more worldly view, and that's what we'll pick up tomorrow morning. If there's something from today that we want to work with during the day, you can make note of it now, or either write it down or make mental note of it, something that we want to meditate on, contemplate today. This relationship between, and I'll just make this suggestion, we get caught on this relationship between I and the experience. This is our thing. This is what we get stuck in. We have a lot of history with that, getting stuck in this way. And this is the point that we're being brought to look at and given the opportunity to separate the I from the experience. And we can see it, right?
Yeah.
We can see it. So, but the possibility is, as soon as someone says something you don't like today, that you'll forget it right away. So, it's a good contemplation for the day. And a good one to do your best to practice today. Remembering whatever happens to me today, it doesn't affect me. It's a good practice to practice today.
Thanks.
Okay. So before we leave the satsang, if you can make some commitment to yourself of how you want to approach it, then surely you will. And surely you will today. You'll find the time to contemplate it some, find the time to practice it. Okay?
Makes me think of mindfulness.
Oh.
Like every thought's done.
Oh. Yeah, it is. Okay. So we'll close final prayers and arati. And these have moved also. See, everything changes. Page 174. Is that right, Nika Devi? I think that's what you said, 174?
I'm trying to remember.
And
Yes.
Okay. So that's the final prayers and including the universal prayer are in order there. And then 210 will be the arati, 210. 209. Okay. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhi Pushtivarnam Orvayukmeva Bandhanam Mrityol Mukshiyaman Mritata Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhi Pushtivarnam Orvayukmeva Bandhanam Mrityol Mukshiyaman Mritata Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivarnam Orvayukmeva Bandhanam Mrityol Mukshiyaman Mritata Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Shantu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Makashi Dukhabhag Bhave Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Mritangamaya Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudashyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O adorable Lord of mercy and love, salutations and prostrations unto thee. Thou art omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. Thou art Satchidananda. Thou art existence, knowledge, and bliss absolute. Thou art the indweller of all beings. Grant us an understanding heart, equal vision, balanced mind, faith, devotion, and wisdom. Grant us inner spiritual strength to resist temptation and to control the mind. Free us from egoism, lust, anger, greed, hatred, and jealousy. Fill our hearts with divine virtues. Let us behold thee in all these names and forms. Let us serve thee in all these names and forms. Let us ever remember thee. Let us ever sing thy glories. Let thy name be ever on our lips. Let us abide in thee forever and ever. And Bolo Satguru Shivananda Maharaj ki.
Jai.
And Bolo Satguru Saraswati Mani ki.
Jai.
Okay, let's stand for our two.